The endless cascade of scandals in the Trump era makes it hard for all of us covering it to stay focused on any one particular scandal at any moment or to manage it all on a day-to-day basis. One place that is doing an amazing job and has become must-watch television is Late Night with Seth Meyers. And A Closer Look is one of the best bits of political commentary anywhere on TV. And they, too, are following the Manafort trial.
That is the president's deputy campaign manager saying, yes, I committed crimes. Republicans, what more do you need before you start taking this seriously? Trump could show up to a rally in a black mask holding a giant bag of cash, and Republicans would say, maybe he just went skiing on Free Money Mountain.
Joining me now is that individual, Seth Meyers, the host of Late Night with Seth Meyers. Great to see you.
So good to be here. Building buddies.
Yes, we're building buddies.
Yeah.
So the Closer Look is this great sort of, it's sometimes quite long.
Yes.
I mean, for television, right? Like, it's this great bit of you sort of take news and headlines and jokes and you put them together. Like, how does that come together? How do you make that? Because as a fellow television person, it seems like a hard time scale to make something that good.
Well, our head writer is Sal Gentile, who you know.
I do.
And he not only
taught him everything he knows.
Taught him everything he knows, but it makes sense. We have a guy who's both has an improv comedy background and a news background, and so he is this rare hybrid of somebody who can sit down every day and start piecing together what we think is going to be the story that we're going to want to talk about when taping rolls around. And he's just done an exceptional job of giving us a first draft that then we can try to add jokes, and more importantly, just leaves the infrastructure to add stories as they happen, because today is another perfect example of the Chris Collins thing wasn't something we thought we'd talk about last night, and then it happens this afternoon.
And I have to say, like, this sounds slightly shticky, but I'll say it anyway. It is the case that many of the headlines feel like setups for jokes.
Yes.
Even as a person who's not a comedy writer. Like, Chris Collins was maybe committing securities fraud on the White House lawn and caught on camera.
Also, Chris Collins wasn't, if you would have asked me this morning, who's the story going to be about today? If you'd listed 100 people,
you would have not gotten.
Surely the indictment will be one of the corrupt people we've met so far. And then there's this, they keep adding characters to a drama that does not need. It needs to be subtracting characters at this point.
That's my big note.
Yeah, but it was amazing because I'm not a financial expert, and when you hear there's an indictment and the security exchange, people are involved. Today was so crazy because when they took out the flow chart of how it happened, it was the easiest to follow flow chart. It was only 2 rows. It was just there's a congressman and then there were like 7 other people, and that was the end of the flow chart. It was the flow chart they show kids to teach them how flow charts work. Like, this is intro to flow chart.
/ also the like don't do that's the other part of this is when we've watched people in this orbit of the president commit crimes or allegedly commit crimes, it has not been like incredibly sneaky stuff.
Right.
It's been pretty like in broad daylight kind of activity.
It's never that scene from a movie where the detective has the yarn going 100 different ways. It's just one piece of yarn. It's just here's the bank and here's the illegal activity, and it's just one piece of yarn.
And that's when you get Rick Gates on the stand. I mean, that was a really amazing moment. I mean, that's the president's deputy campaign manager. And he says, yeah, that guy sitting over there, the campaign manager, we did crimes together.
Yeah. There's something really sweet about saying it that way. I feel like we did crimes together. That's what I thought. Bonnie and Clyde, that could have been the poster.
That was the way
they did crimes together.
Do you think, how do you think about this sort of attentional thing, right? There's this question like we saw with Scott Pruitt, which was a scandal that we stayed on sometimes like almost in spite of ourselves. Like it'd be like, oh, there's another Scott Pruitt, we have to do that. Like it is so hard that it is the case that the newest thing will wash out the old thing.
Right. Yeah, and that's why we've started as sort of a companion piece to A Closer Look. We have a new thing called The Check-In, which is once a week to just sort of say, hey, while this has all been happening, here's what Betsy DeVos has been doing. Here's what Scott Pruitt's replacement's been doing, because I think there's this sense of, oh, Scott Pruitt's gone, so now that's back to a normal agency, which of course it's not, because it's somebody who's just more effective at doing what Scott Pruitt was doing without 15 scandals every day.
Right.
So it's hard to, as you know, you got a limited amount of real estate every week, and you want to talk about what's happening, you want to talk what matters, but it's crazy how much oxygen gets taken up with breaking news every day.
Do you Did you find, like, how did you find your way to the audience? This cultural moment, this political moment is a cultural moment. I mean, people want to talk about politics.
Yeah.
I mean, it's remarkable the degree. Like, did you know that going into this? Did you find this? How did you discover that fact?
I mean, I think we all discovered it the same way, which is when this campaign started. And from my time at SNL, anytime there's especially a presidential election where there's no incumbent, and so you sort of have big fields on both sides and a lot of personalities. It's a really fun thing to write about, whether you're a late night talk show, whether you're Saturday Night Live. So that started for all of us. And, you know, that was the carnival that I think we all thought would eventually leave town, like carnivals do. And then it was just, oh, we're a permanent carnival. So I think we just learned during the campaign how to get ready for this.
But then there's also like a seriousness to it too, right? I mean, that I think is the challenge that you guys have, like writing jokes about like family separation.
Yeah, I mean, you try to, button it, and I think that's again speaks to Sal's strength, which is, you want to have an arc and you want to have a thesis and you want to have as many jokes as possible. And we do it in front of a test audience earlier in the day. And when yeah, we do. And so when there's things that we can't find any purchase comedically, we try to let go of it. But we do, we do have a beginning, middle, and end. And if we set up a thesis and try to hammer it home at the end, hopefully we make a point of like, hey, this matters. What's happening right now is serious.
You have a test audience.
Yeah, well,
is that like an obvious thing? Is that true in late night that I just didn't know that?
I don't know how many people do it. I know they do it at Jimmy as well, at the Tonight Show. But we just gather up people from the building. We fully go down to the NBC Experience store and say, "Do you want to see a rehearsal of a late night comedy show?" Yeah. And we get about 40 people. It's crazy though, because a lot of them are tourists, and so you have to. There are times where you say, "Well, I got to be honest, the Scott Pruitt stuff went over like a lead balloon," but most of those people were from Norway, so I think it'll go better later.
It was not scanning.
Yeah.
Do you think? Here's the question I have. It always feels like it's getting more intense. Like I have this thing with the staff as like try to ban adverbs. Like the president finds himself increasingly X. It's like he's been increasingly that since he came on the scene. Do you have that feeling that we're hurtling towards something?
I don't know, because like you say, I feel like that has also been this feeling from the beginning of hurtling. We've been talking about just every night saying, hey, this is what we were freaking out about a year ago, just to look back at how quaint it was. We did a whole closer look about him fudging the facts on the Carrier air conditioning plant. You think about that, and you're like, that was a thing that seemed like a real thing.
Right, because at that point it was like, you don't just like lie like that in public. Like, we can hear you.
And now you think, God, him lying about heating and cooling companies, that was the dream.
The show has been fantastic.
Thanks, buddy.
You're doing great work. Shout out to Sal Gentile and also Henry Melcher, who I also taught everything he knows.
We like the Chris Hayes tree.
That worked for me that are there. Thanks for coming by.
Always a pleasure to see you, buddy. Come back soon.
Absolutely. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.